Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Annabel Yeboah. Sorry, I'll be sharing my slides right away. Hello, Christine. Please, can you see my slides? I'm sharing. Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annabel Yeboah. I just completed my MPhil studies in the Department of Consumer Science from University of Ghana. This afternoon, I'm so glad to be presenting my research findings on the research titled Dietary Intakes and Nutrient Gaps in the Diets of Poor Urban Ghanaian Women. So this will be the outline for the presentation. So malnutrition is still a major public health issue in sub-Saharan Africa and in Ghana as well. Over the years, the nature of malnutrition has been shifting. So there has been a decline in the rates of undernutrition, but then now there's really an upsurge in the prevalence of the rates of overweight and obesity as a result of rapid urbanization. And there's also the incidence of micronutrient deficiencies. So having these three forms of malnutrition existing at the same time is what is known as the triple burden of malnutrition. So from research, the different segments of the population are all vulnerable to malnutrition. However, women are particularly vulnerable because of their high nutrient needs, which is associated with pregnancy and lactation. And that's why it's necessary that we enhance the nutrition of women, because it is through this women that we can stop the whole intergenerational cycle of malnutrition. Several studies have been conducted on the nutritional problems surrounding pregnant and lactating women, but then there's paucity of scientific data on non-pregnant and non-lactating women. And so for these studies, the researchers focused on non-pregnant, non-lactating women of reproductive ages. So the key objectives of this study were to identify the actual nutrient intakes of these women, determine their minimum dietary diversity score, and also determine the body mass index. So to be able to determine the actual nutrient intakes and the minimum dietary diversity score, a 24-hour dietary recall was conducted. This was done. This was to get the respondents to recall all the foods and beverages that they had consumed the previous day, that is within 24 hours. And also to be able to determine their body mass index, their height in centimeters, and their weight in kilogram was also ascertained. The study was conducted in Kisaman, and it's a poor urban community in the Greater Accra region. That is the capital city of Accra. And the study design that was used was a cross-sectional survey using a quantitative approach. So after the 24-hour recall, dietary recall was collected, the respondents The respondents gave the food and beverages that they are consumed in estimated quantities with the aid of food models. So with this estimated quantities, they were then converted into grams. And these gram values were then imputed into the Ghana food composition table to be able to determine their nutrient intakes. So with this nutrient intakes, calculated nutrient intakes were then compared with the recommended nutrient intakes as given by the food and FAO to be able to determine the adequacy ratio of all these intakes. So then these intakes were further classified into inadequate intakes, fairly adequate intakes, and adequate intakes. Again, the 24-hour recall was used to calculate the dietary diversity. And to be able to calculate the dietary diversity, the FAO guideline for calculating dietary diversity was used. So then the score of 1 was awarded when a food group was consumed, and 0 was given when a food group was not consumed. And then the individual scores were then aggregated to be able to calculate the dietary diversity score. Now moving on to the result. So this slide is showing us the different nutrient intakes of the respondents. These are the nutrients that were understudied. then the median intakes and the adequacy ratios. So this whole part highlighted red is showing us the nutrients that were inadequately consumed. And almost all of them, all the micronutrients were inadequately consumed. But then particularly of interest, we can see from here that folate was the least consumed. Meanwhile, folate is really a nutrient of concern among women of productive ages. According to the FAO, the recommended intake for folate is 400 microgram. But then for this population, the intakes were 18.3%. And the adequacy ratio lied was 4.6%, which is very, very low. Intakes of vitamin B12 was very low, same for vitamin B6. With regards to the food groups that were consumed, we can see from this chart that intakes of grains, tubers, and plantains were the most consumed, which is also known as the starchy staples. Meat and poultry was also was consumed at around 79.1%. And the least consumed out of the 10 food groups were the other fruits, that is the citrus fruits other than the vitamin A rich fruits. So at the end of the study, when the minimum dietary diversity score was calculated, the mean score was 3.91, signifying a low dietary diversity. So in the population, only 25% had a good dietary diversity. That is, their dietary diversity score was above 5, and 75% had a low dietary diversity. It means that they were consuming less than 5 food groups out of the 10. Now to the BMI of the respondents, only 2.8% were underweight, and 40.9% had a normal weight. On average, about 55% of the population were overweight or obese, and this is clear, like it's really in order with what current researchers have been saying about the increase in obesity and overweight. So in conclusion, the micronutrient intakes among this population was very low, particularly for folate, vitamin B6, and vitamin B12. With regards to their dietary intakes, the starchy staples were the most consumed, whereas fruits and vegetables were the least consumed. And also about half of the women were either obese or overweight. Thank you.